What if we told you that colonial America stank? Not in the sense that it smelled vaguely of manure and chamber pots, although that was certainly true. No, we're talking about an overwhelming, cloying stench that permeated every aspect of daily life. Imagine a thick, sticky air laden with the musky aroma of stale sweat and the putridity of rotting waste. Rubbish, animal excrement, and overflowing sewage mingled with the aromatic bounty of butcher shops, tanneries, and market stalls. Add to this scenario a generous helping of livestock sharing the space, and you begin to get a glimpse of the stinky reality of colonial America. In this milieu of maladas, the colonists employed a variety of strategies to mask the pervasive stench, and later became the first president of the United States, was not immune to the malodorous realities of colonial life. During his arduous journey through the wilderness, General Washington and his troops encountered biting insects, relentless humidity, and the overwhelming stench of decaying vegetation. Imagine the scene: a sweltering summer day in the Virginia wilderness, the air thick with the buzz of mosquitoes and the stench of stagnant water. The preferred method for both genders was the use of a comb, a simple yet effective tool in the battle against an. However, this seemingly benign practice came with its own set of challenges. As colonists soon discovered, the era was rife with toothaches, and the treatments were as painful as they were ineffective. This charming fable has wormed its way into popular culture, becoming synonymous with the hardships endured by the early settlers. But here's the surprising truth: George Washington never had a set of wooden teeth. The idea is so ingrained in our collective consciousness that we tend to overlook the reality of his dental woes. Washington's teeth were a patchwork of his own natural teeth, animal teeth, and even human teeth. Imagine having a mismatched set of teeth that shift constantly, causing not only physical discomfort, but also altering your facial structure. It's a far cry from the neatly fitting wooden teeth that graced the pages of children's books. Imagine sitting in a rickety chair while a practitioner with little to no formal training attempts to extract your throbbing tooth. What surprised you the most about colonial America's daily life? Did you know about the extent of insect infestations, or the risky grooming practices of the time? Share your thoughts, and stay tuned for more immersive historical tales. The procedure was not only excruciating, it was also incredibly risky. The tools used were often unsterilized, leading to infections that could have fatal consequences. Picture this: you've endured the agonizing pull of the tooth, only to find that the wound becomes infected, leading to swelling, fever, and even the loss of life. Such grim outcomes were not unheard of in colonial America, where the intersection of dental care and frontier life was a dangerous one. The absence of modern anesthetics meant that every dental procedure was a test of endurance, and the tools used were as primitive as they were sharp, causing not only physical pain, but also permanent facial disfigurement. Combing the hair not only helped in keeping it neat and orderly, it also provided a convenient surface for lice to congregate and lay their eggs. Suddenly, what started as a grooming ritual turned into a potential infestation nightmare. Imagine sitting down for a hard day's work or an important social event, the confidence that comes from a welcome appearance, only to be met with the horrifying realization that your scalp has become a new home for these unwanted guests. This wasn't just a momentary setback. For the colonists, it was a continuous struggle. The comb, once a symbol of order and cleanliness, transformed into a metaphorical Trojan horse, bringing with it the seeds of infestation. This ironic twist of fate is a testament to the unpredictable nature of life in colonial America, where even the simplest tasks carried the risk of unexpected complications. Add to this the musky aroma of unwashed soldiers and the pungent odor of their animal companions, and you begin to get a sense of the olfactory overload experienced by even the most powerful figures of the time. Sleep, a time when the body is most vulnerable, became a battlefield in colonial America, and the colonists were ill-equipped to fight this silent war. The absence of proper bedding and mattresses not only deprived them of a comfortable rest, it also made them sitting ducks for pesky insects. Picture this: you've finally succumbed to the embrace of sleep, only to be rudely awakened by the maddening itch of bedbugs. You toss and turn, swatting at unseen enemies, all the while trying to soothe the burning irritation on your skin. But it's a losing battle. The persistent insects seem determined to make your slumbers uncomfortable as possible. This was not just an isolated experience. It was a nightly ritual for many colonists, regardless of their social status. The problem was so pervasive that even the illustrious George Washington found himself seeking refuge in the great outdoors. Rather than battling the lice and mosquitoes in his cabin, he chose to sleep in his horse's stable, where at least the company was less irritating. The general's intimate journal entries provide a candid glimpse into this often overlooked aspect of his life, underscoring the shared humanity between the iconic figurehead and the common folk he led. Some turned to strong perfumes and scented oils, hoping to drown out the undercurrent of decay. It was a constant tormentor that invaded every aspect of colonial life, from the most intimate moments to the grandest public events. Mosquitoes, flies, and other stinging insects were not just unwelcome guests. They were menacing squatters determined to make themselves at home in every crevice of colonial society. Imagine trying to enjoy a peaceful evening in the flickering glow of a candlelit room, the sweet scent of a nearby flower, only to be driven mad by the incessant hum of mosquitoes. Or picture attending a formal gathering in elaborate attire, the air thick with anticipation, until a persistent fly decides to crash the party and spoil the ambiance. In colonial America, such scenarios were not figments of an overactive imagination. They were everyday occurrences. Others relied on herbs and spices, scattering pungent leaves and flowers around their homes in a futile attempt to purify the air. One of the most prevalent and disturbing practices was the use of arsenic to remove unwanted hair. Yes, you heard that right, arsenic. This highly toxic substance, notorious for its deadly effects when ingested, was liberally applied to the skin as a means of hair removal. Imagine the horror of casually touching your face, only to feel the ghostly touch of arsenic on your fingertips. The risks associated with this practice were immense. Arsenic poisoning could lead to symptoms ranging from nausea and vomiting to organ failure and even death. Yet in a society where beauty standards were rigidly enforced and resources for safe grooming were limited, desperate measures were taken. The desperation stemmed not only from societal pressures, but also from a lack of safer alternatives. Colonial women were trapped in a catch-22 situation. They were expected to conform to strict beauty standards that often necessitated the removal of unwanted hair. But the methods available to them were not only risky, they were potentially fatal. But perhaps the most intriguing and slightly absurd tactic was the use of foods with overpowering aromas, like boiled eggs or roasted coffee grounds to counteract the stench. Imagine hosting a dinner party with friends while balancing the aroma of fine cuisine against the musk wafting from the privy just outside the door. Such was the peculiar reality of colonial life. These practices were not merely quaint oddities. They were survival mechanisms in a world where the boundaries between the natural and built environment were blurred and where the threat of disease loomed large. The omnipresence of animal waste added another layer to the complex olfactory landscape of colonial towns. Animals, whether domesticated or wild, were not merely part of the ecosystem. They were integral to the economy, the food supply, and even the very survival of the colonists. However, this close relationship came at a cost, quite literally. The stench of animal waste was a constant companion, seeping into homes, contaminating water sources, and mingling with the refuse from human settlements. Imagine trying to prepare a meal while the tantalizing aroma of roasting meat is undercut by the musky reek of stale animal urine. That was the daily reality for the colonists. The absence of basic sanitation systems meant that animal and human waste were often disposed of in the same areas, creating a breeding ground for disease and a symphony of unpleasant smells. For instance, the overflowing privies, as mentioned earlier, were a notorious source of stench and disease, often located above business establishments or even homes. Their contents would seep into the very foundation of the buildings, impregnating everything with the musk of decomposition. The cacophony of sights and smells would have been enough to make any modern-day urbanite break out into hives. Public latrines, known as privy vaults, were often situated precariously above cellars and business rooms, ensuring that the stench of stale urine and feces permeated every nook and cranny of the town. Children at play had to navigate this fragrant minefield, dodging piles of refuse and bartering with street vendors, whose wares were often literally piled to the sky. These scenes were not merely colorful anecdotes. They were a testament to the harsh realities of colonial life, where the struggle for survival was as visceral as it was invisible. To truly understand colonial America, we must confront these less glamorous aspects of life head-on. Picture yourself enduring a never-ending assault on your olfactory senses as you navigate a world saturated with the pungency of decay and the musk of unwashed bodies. Welcome to our channel, where today we are taking you back in time to explore the nauseating truth behind the stench of colonial America. Before we dive into the malodorous morass of colonial America, make sure to hit that thumbs up button so you never miss an episode. As we delve into the fascinating history of hygiene, or the lack thereof, in early America, let's take a moment to appreciate the role that smells play in shaping our memories and experiences. What's your most vivid childhood smell memory? Perhaps it is the aroma of freshly baked cookies wafting through your home, or the scent of freshly mown grass on a summer day. Maybe it is the smell of rain on hot pavement or the fragrance of blooming flowers in your garden. Your smelled memories are intricately woven into your life story, adding another dimension to your cherished moments. So go ahead, share your most unforgettable childhood smell memory in the comments below. Let's create a community of olfactory reminiscence together. In colonial America, the streets were a tumultuous mix of pedestrians, animals, and refuse, creating a potent cocktail of smells. Picture yourself in a world where indoor plumbing is a distant fantasy and where outdoor privies overflow with noxious contents. The colonial obsession with covering up smells often bordered on the ridiculous, yet desperate times called for desperate measures. Even the mighty George Washington, the revered leader who presided over the Continental Congress, the relentless barrage of insects was not just a nuisance. Women in colonial America had unique challenges. When it came to maintaining their appearance in a world where personal hygiene was often neglected and resources were scarce, colonial men and women alike wrestled with the stubborn reality of their unruly locks, employing a variety of techniques to tame their mane. Imagine trying to catch a few winks of sleep while battling a relentless onslaught of mosquito bites and the constant itch of bedbugs. In colonial America, dentistry was more of an art than a science, and those unfortunate enough to require dental care often wished they'd never left home. One of the most enduring myths about colonial America is the notion that George Washington, the nation's first president, had a set of wooden teeth. Now, we want to hear from you.